They say the Vikings feared nothing, not even death. But there was one thing that froze even the bravest Norse warrior's blood. One punishment whispered about in dark corners of the Longhouse. A ritual said to please the gods. A fate worse than dying in battle. They called it the Blood Eagle. Imagine the icy wind of the north biting through your skin, the roar of the sea crashing against the cliffs, and in the distance, the low hum of 100 voices chanting an ancient name. You know what's coming. You've heard the stories. And you know this is the end. The Blood Eagle wasn't a punishment for just anyone. It was reserved for traitors, for oath-breakers, for those who had offended the gods themselves. To die this way was both a curse and an offering, a message carved not into stone, but into flesh. But what really happened during this ritual? Was it real, or a myth born from the fear of Viking brutality? Historians still argue. Yet the sagas tell a story that chills the soul. According to the ancient texts, the Blood Eagle was first performed as an act of vengeance, not justice, a son's revenge for his father's death. The sagas speak of a man named Ivar the Boneless, son of Ragnar Lothbrok, one of the most feared warriors to ever live. When his father was killed by King Ella of Northumbria, Ivar swore an oath that the world would remember the name Ragnar forever. So he gathered his army. He crossed the seas. And when Ella was finally captured, the Norsemen didn't simply kill him. They made him a warning. They made him a story. The kind of story whispered around fires for 1,000 years. Now, what did the Vikings believe would happen next? Why such a ritual? The Norse saw life and death as part of the same circle. They believed the gods watched not from heaven but from the very air around them. To them, a warrior's suffering wasn't meaningless. It was sacred. Pain was proof of devotion. And the Blood Eagle, they believed, could open the path to Valhalla. The chanting grew louder. Drums echoed through the fjord. The air was thick with smoke, salt, and something else, dread. But not all Vikings celebrated it. Even among their own, the ritual caused unease. It was said that those who performed it risked drawing the wrath of Odin himself if the sacrifice wasn't perfect. Because for the Norse, death wasn't final. If a soul wasn't properly sent off, it wandered, restless, cursed. But here is the twist. Some historians believe the Blood Eagle may never have happened at all. They argue that the term was metaphorical, a poetic way to describe a gruesome execution, not a ritual itself. That Christian scribes later exaggerated it to make the Vikings seem barbaric. But then, why do the Norse sagas describe it in such chilling ceremonial detail? Maybe it wasn't a metaphor. Maybe it was a message. A declaration that the Norse gods demanded blood for betrayal. One thing is certain. For the Vikings, honor was life. And dishonor, worse than death. Breaking an oath to your lord or your kin was the ultimate crime. And if you were marked as a betrayer, the Blood Eagle awaited. Now imagine being there. The night before. You're bound. You hear the waves crashing outside, the ravens calling from above, Odin's messengers. You see the faces of your captors, not angry, not cruel, but calm. They believe they're doing something holy. They're sending you to the gods. The fear isn't in what happens. It's in knowing what it means. You're not dying as a man, you're becoming an offering. And that's what makes the Blood Eagle so haunting. It's not just the act, it's the belief behind it. That death could be divine. That agony could be sacred. That one man's end could feed the gods themselves. Even centuries later, when the sagas were written down, the very mention of it sent shivers through those who read it. Because it wasn't about cruelty. It was about devotion taken too far. Faith twisted by vengeance, and fear disguised as ritual. As the Norse world faded and as Christianity spread through Scandinavia, the Blood Eagle became more than a memory. It became a symbol of the old ways dying. A ritual that belonged to gods who demanded too much and men who gave everything. But there's something powerful in the way it survived. Even now, 1,000 years later, we still whisper its name. The The Blood Eagle, a story that refuses to die. But stories like this don't survive for 1,000 winters by accident. There's a reason the Blood Eagle still lives in our imagination, part truth, part terror, part legend. The Norse were masters of storytelling. Their sagas were never just history. They were mirrors. Every tale of vengeance or sacrifice reflected what they feared most: oblivion, to be forgotten, to die without glory. To vanish from memory was the true death. And that's what the Blood Eagle achieved: immortality through horror. A single act so shocking that no one could ignore it. Every kingdom that heard of it trembled. Every warrior who dreamed of raiding England remembered what happened to Ella. It was the Vikings' greatest weapon, not their axes, not their ships, but fear itself. Even the enemies of the Northmen began to spread the story. Monks, terrified of the dragon-proud ships on the horizon, wrote about the Blood Eagle in trembling Latin. They painted the Norse as demons, men without souls, devoted only to chaos and blood. But perhaps that was the point. Because fear kept kingdoms awake at night. Fear kept walls manned and swords drawn. And the more the story spread, the stronger the legend of the Vikings became. Yet under all that fear, there was fascination. How could a people so violent also create poetry, carve runes of love, build ships of impossible beauty? How could the same culture that honored family and loyalty also invent a ritual that turned death into spectacle? That contradiction is the Vikings, both savage and sacred, both destroyers and dreamers. And the Blood Eagle stands at the heart of that paradox. Archaeologists have searched for proof: bones marked by ritual cuts, carvings depicting the ceremony, anything. But none have been found. The earth is silent. Some say time has simply erased the evidence. Others believe it never existed to begin with. Still, the sagas remain stubborn. Each retelling adds detail, as if the story itself refuses to die. Some describe torches flickering in frozen air. Others speak of runes drawn in ash, prayers whispered to Odin, the smell of iron and fear. Maybe those details aren't facts. Maybe they're memories of something deeper. A need to believe that power demands a price. Because the Blood Eagle at its core isn't just about execution, it's about control. It's about showing the world that no betrayal goes unpunished, that the gods themselves stand behind vengeance. And in a brutal age, that belief kept order. It kept warriors loyal, kings feared, enemies silent. So what does that mean for us now? Why does this ancient ritual still echo in our minds? Maybe because we still crave the same thing the Vikings did: legacy. To be remembered. To leave something behind that says we lived, we mattered, we changed the world. The Norse carved that truth into every saga, every myth, every battle cry. And even in their darkest acts, they were chasing eternity. The Blood Eagle became the ultimate symbol of that chase, a warning and a wish, a reminder that devotion without mercy can twist into madness, and that vengeance, once unleashed, never truly ends. Centuries later, poets wrote about it, painters imagined it, historians debated it, and every generation added its own shadow to the myth. Because the Blood Eagle is more than an execution, it is a mirror held up to human nature. It asks us the question no one wants to answer: how far would you go to make the world remember your name? When you strip away the smoke and legend, that's what the Vikings understood. Glory and horror often walk the same path, and those who chase one usually find the other waiting. So when the next storm rolls in across the North Sea and the wind howls like 1,000 voices, listen closely, because somewhere beneath the thunder you can almost hear the old chants, the same ones that echoed on that frozen shore 1,000 years ago. Blood Eagle. 2 words that outlived the men who spoke them. 2 words that remind us that history's most terrible stories are never truly gone. And maybe, in that silence between the waves, the gods are still listening.